for another Elsie's Little Pickles, the pickle pod for the people. That's right. So, very interesting.
Needle pulling thread.
Yeah. Needle pulling.
Sorry, I was already answering questions.
You're already answering questions I haven't asked. All right, beautiful.
I was trying to study for my DNA test.
Oh, God, here we go again. So, first off, I want to extend our deepest sympathies for everyone that was affected by the Hurricane Helena. And then, it is Helena, right?
I do believe so.
And then,
Helena?
I also want...
Can I know, Milton, you're about to say you're concerned for the citizens of Florida who are about to get hit with Milton. Is there a possibility maybe of naming these big storms something more scary sounding than Milton?
No. You do know what the next one is, right? The next one is Phil from accounting.
Well, there apparently is another hurricane right behind Milton.
I know. I'm hoping that peters out though and just becomes like a tropical storm, because they were all concerned that, I think it was Tropical Storm Kirk was supposed to turn into a hurricane, or it was Hurricane Kirk. I'm not sure, but that kind of fizzled out. So with any luck, anything that's coming behind Milton will fizzle out too. But man, woo, what a doozy
All I can say is I feel like that area right now, it's just if there was a God, which I don't think there is, he's not happy with these people.
There's something going on.
He's going bowling.
Yeah, there's something.
It's turned into a bowling alley.
It's like, crazy.
Let me pick it up with a spare.
So yeah, exactly. Let me pick it up with a spare.
Ridiculous.
I mean, I hate to laugh, but because it's such a tragic thing. There were a bunch of people that lost their lives. So I'm not laughing at that. I'm laughing at the circumstance, not the tragedy itself or what people are going through. But it's horrific. I mean, you're talking Florida, you're talking Georgia, North and South Carolina. Did Alabama get anything? I know they got I'm sure they got a lot of flooding. It went all the way up into Tennessee with flooding. So that's the thing.
The last few days here have been crazy windy.
Yeah.
So.
See, that's the thing that people don't realize, or maybe they realize, but they don't take into consideration, is no matter where the landfall hits, it potentially, specifically if it like with Helena, the impact can go much further north. So you may not be in a hurricane, but you may be in a situation that you've never been in, as far as like heavy winds, heavy rain, and that can affect a lot of inland areas. What's interesting about Milton is that it is bigger than Helena.
Yeah.
It not only is it bigger, but it seems like it's hitting just below the line of where Helena hit, right? So you're right. It's kind of like
picking up the spare.
It is. It's kind of like picking up the spare. But my heart goes out to those people. I don't even know what to say, to be honest with you. I do know this, though. I do know that we're going to have to talk about some of the misinformation that came out around the first one.
Oh, absolutely.
And how that plays into what's going to end up coming down the line with this one, and potentially how that's going to affect the election. But first, the news.
And if you thought there was some good news, Putin's peace ultimatum. Try to say that 3 times fast. Ukraine must give up territories and abandon NATO. Russia, Putin basically is demanding that Ukraine withdraw from Kiev and 4 partially occupied regions and renounce its NATO aspirations, as well as, where did it go here? NATO, strategic effort.
Well, I mean, first, they're never going to do that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like saying, before this, we can have any peace talks, you have to agree to standing naked on the corner in the middle of Times Square with nothing on but a clown nose and clown makeup. It's just not going to happen.
He also, this is what I was looking for, wants protection of Russian-speaking citizens in Ukraine and the removal of all sanctions on Russia.
Yeah,
which tells me the sanctions are working.
Yeah, I would say that the sanctions are probably he's starting to feel them. He's starting to. And I think he's also starting to realize that there's a lot of allies of Ukraine out within NATO and outside of NATO that are like, you know what, we've had enough of this bullshit with you. You were saying on one of the pods, France is like stepping up big time, going, come on, let's just fucking do this. Let's go.
France is talking about putting boots on the grounds for actual fighting. They're there training people. But on the flip side, well, probably not the flip side, on that same theme, Finland, who is the newest member of NATO, is joining in with NATO on their first nuclear weapons drills. And Finland is rolling up its sleeves. Like straight up, the words coming out of Finland are fuck around and find out, Russia.
Yeah. I mean, and you don't expect
and I know
that.
there are people out there that are probably like, what's Finland gonna do? Well, Finland's military is pretty out there, as in staunch training, great weaponry, a great navy, but also they help maintain the internet access for Europe, because people
which is
probably
partially
don't know this.
Why they have so much security.
Yes, and the internet is in cables underneath the ocean. Russia once tried to disrupt it to some of the Baltic states. Is that what you want?
Yeah.
The Scandinavian states like Finland, Sweden. And Finland was going right behind them, fixing everything. Like, look what they did. Look at this mess they made. And they gave they didn't give two shits about it. They fixed it easily because they're savvy like that. But Finland is just like, if they want to cut off internet, we'll be glad to cut them off.
See, I don't think people realize how much we've become dependent on the internet.
Absolutely.
So think about it in this terms, okay? There was a week or two ago, there was a large outage, and it, partially from the hurricane, I'm sure, but there was a large outage with Verizon, T-Mobile, AT&T, and mainly it was Verizon, from what I understood, right?
Yeah, I didn't have a problem, and I'm AT&T.
Yeah,
or not AT&T. I'm T-Mobile.
You're T-Mobile, and so what ended up happening was, for a period of time, there was no cell service. There was no texting. There was no internet. If you were getting it through your Wi-Fi or whatever. The interesting thing about that, though, is you saw, like a couple days later, Bank of America had a problem, and all of a sudden, everyone's online balance was showing zero. Now, I don't know if those two things were connected. I don't know if they were cyber attacks. I don't know if it just shit went sideways. Okay. But what I learned from it was, even somebody like myself, who is not like addicted to social media, who's not addicted to the internet really at all, and is very comfortable sitting down and reading a book, I was starting to get a little itchy. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, fuck. Everything I want to do, I wanted to grab my phone for, or hop on the computer.
I love my internet. I do a lot of stuff. I'm a songwriter and all that kind of crap. But man, the internet goes out. I just go outside, build a fire, whittle some sticks.
Yeah.
Have a little
relax
time.
Yeah, a little relaxation. But that was over the course of, let's call it a day. Okay. And it was intermittent. It would come on and you could get on for a little bit and it was working fine. Then it would go away and you couldn't get it back on. But just in that 24-hour period, it was amazing to me to realize that even somebody like me that does not feel that plugged in could start to get a little itchy about it. I started thinking, man, what are these people who are like, their entire lives are online? You know, whether that's people that do their job remotely, whether that it doesn't really matter what it is. You could just be somebody that loves, online porn, and you spend 6 hours a day looking at it. It will fuck you up. It will fuck you up to not have access. And when you start taking people's ability to go on social media, Instagram, Facebook, so on and so forth away, that's a whole generation that does not know anything other than that. And I will take that one step further. A lot of those kids are of the generation that they were always pacified with some sort of an electronic toy. So like even as a child, if they weren't happy in a restaurant, their parents would hand them a phone to play a game on, or they would hand them a tablet to play on, whatever the case may be. But they were always engaged in some sort of electronic device, So I don't know how those kids are going to make it if the internet goes down. Now, when you put that in terms of an entire country, I got to imagine if they cut off internet access to Russia, that's going to be a bit of a game changer. That's going to be something that's really going to stop the economy completely, because I couldn't buy there was a gas station who their internet service was through Verizon, and they couldn't process payments with credit cards even. So it was cash only, which again, no big deal for me, but it's a big deal when you realize that you might not be able to get that cash because the internet went down or because the banking system had an issue. So now you're in a circumstance where, okay, I have X amount of cash available personally on me. And when that runs out, if they can't figure out how to get the banking shit up, and I can't use an ATM.
A couple of buttons, some pocket lint.
Yeah, you're going to go back to bartering. And I think that if you're in a circumstance in Russia where you go back to an entire country having their finances cut.
Shiny rock.
Yeah, exactly. This is what I've got. I must break you. I must break you, comrade.
I must break you.
So is that kind of what Finland was talking about? Was like, oh shit, we're going in hard, just say the word, or are they just kind of moving on their own pace, or what's the deal?
I think that they're just wanting to go in joint operations with NATO for the, nuclear training to work together, all of these countries, which you got to imagine Russia is supposedly powerful. I say supposedly because they're having a lot of problems with just little Ukraine. But let's look at the flip side of that. Sure, Russia is supposedly powerful, but when you are surrounded by basically all allies together around you, I understand. Yeah, if I was on Russia's side, I'd be a little nervous too of all of these countries joining together.
Yeah, I would be too.
And you know what? They should be nervous. Fuck around and find out, Russia.
Well, that's the problem is that they did fuck around and now they're finding out. You know what I mean? Like I don't see.
I mean, Saudi Arabia is now cutting the price of oil by ramping up the production. Why? To drown out Russia's ability to make money off of oil.
Right. So when you start taking
you got
away
China, who is looking down at Russia. Yeah, they keep trying to have some kind of mutual agreement going, but China is also like, you get that grubby little finger near a nuclear button, we're gonna have words.
Yeah, because they understand that it's mutual destruction.
Yeah.
So like China is a lot of things, but stupid is not one of them. They just aren't. And you would be a fool to assume that Xi Jinping is not only incredibly smart, but tactical. I would say. He's not afraid to push the boundaries when he knows he's got room on the other side of that boundary, but he also knows when to pull back, and I don't think under any circumstance China wants any type of nuclear interaction going on, because they know that the United States won't start it, but they also know that once it starts, it's on autoplay. And once it's on autoplay, everything's fucking done. And China knows that means that they don't have any markets to sell to anymore if they survived at all.
And on top of that, apparently Ukraine with drones took out the largest oil suddenly having a brain fart. The largest refinery in Russia. Took it out. One fell swoop.
Yeah.
Which I find ironic. They had this great big Navy, I guess it was what do they call those things? Airplanes take off.
Hey, you know how you leave me hanging?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, welcome to the club, motherfucker.
Aircraft carrier.
There you go. There you go. Use your big boy words. Use your big boy words.
They took out the brand new one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like weeks after it launched. They hadn't even taken the plastic off of the screens. It was like a $20 billion aircraft carrier. Where's it? It's at the bottom.
It still had new aircraft carrier smell.
It's gone. It's gone. Guys were doggy paddling back to shore going,
fuck.
Oh, crap.
Oh, I thought we were supposed to break them. They broke us. What's up?
And let's face it, what countries are siding with Russia, Belarus? They're going to run at the first sign of danger.
Look, we've got listeners.
North Korea, South Korea has come out and already said, nah, they ain't doing shit. We will reduce North Korea to a parking lot.
Well, see, here's the thing: is I hate to pick on Russia because we got Russian listeners.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, I'm
thankful
will be
for
the first person to say I love Russian people. I know quite a few actually.
Yeah, same.
We grew up with a guy who was from Russia across the street from us. I love Russian people.
Not just that, but here's the thing: is what people don't realize is there is a large concentration in the Detroit metro area of Russians and Ukrainians. And it's actually a lot of Ukrainians. So I've actually had more Ukrainian friends than I've had Russian friends. But in the sense of it all used to be the Soviet Union, there wasn't much distinction made between that. It would be like a distinction between Kentucky and Alabama. There's not much distinction, although separated by a large amount of land and totally different types of people and population and so on. So it's just not thought of that way. And so to our Russian...
I did learn that the Yugo, I do believe, is from Yugoslavia.
Correct.
Or used to be Yugoslavia. It's a car. You don't drive one across the Big Mac.
No. Yeah, that went right off the edge in a high windstorm.
Yeah. Yes.
Actually, the funny thing was, I had a guy that I went to high school with who was Yugoslavian, and we were pretty good friends. And when that happened, oh boy, did he get teased at school. Like everyone was just busting his ball. Yeah.
As if he had a wrench and would build it himself.
So here's the interesting thing, right? So we have listeners in Russia, and to our Russian listeners, thank you again for listening. But you do realize that this is not going to work out well for anyone. And I have a lot of faith in the Russian people because I do think that they realize while Putin might have some good points, in general, he's taking them down a bad road.
Yeah. So, and let's face it, one of the biggest things that probably, again, no one is thinking about. It was a big deal during World War II when Hitler invaded Russia. They picked a fight in the middle of winter, Russia's great winter fighters. So is Sweden, Finland.
Yeah, but that's my point is just like I can love the Russian people and hate their leader. Yeah, I can love the Chinese people and disagree with their way of governance. I can love the German people and disagree with what happened in World War II and World War I. You know what I mean? Like this is the problem, I think, in the world, but specifically in the United States, is people aren't able to separate the government from the people often. And I think if you do that, if you separate the government from the people who are being governed, especially like in the United States is a little bit different because we're a representative democracy. You know, we're a republic. So we vote these assholes in. So it does look bad for us when we have, you know, the vast majority of you know, any party, whether it's Democrats or Republicans, that can't get shit done or makes bad decisions. It does look bad because we were the ones that put them there. It's not always the case that the people in Russia, like, I'm sorry, I'm finding it difficult to believe that Putin was fully elected fair and square based just off of ballots. I think that there was some monkey business.
One of the kings of fake voters.
Yeah, and you know, and say what you will about China, but you know, Xi Jinping ain't going nowhere anytime soon.
Yeah.
And I think that whenever you're in a circumstance where somebody's in power for more than 6 to 8 years, and honestly, I think even 8 years is pushing it. But when you have somebody that's in power for more than 8 years, and then whether they leave power and then come back or whatever, it's never good. You know, like that's the thing that I look at with the current election that's happening is that regardless of whether or not you're a Trump supporter, there's no possible way, in my opinion, that what he's coming back to do is actually in your best interest. I think that when it comes to like somebody like Trump coming back, or like Putin when he left and then came back, I think that that's usually a power grab. You figured out what the levers of power are. You figured out what order to pull them so that you can continuously stay in power in basically a fascist or dictatorial style. Now, with all that being said, I fear wholeheartedly for what the Russian people will go through. And I'm not just talking about war. I worry about what the Russian people are going to go through when it comes to supply chain. I worry about what they're going to go through when it comes to heating their homes. I worry, you know, like honestly, like
it's no secret that in times of war like that, it's the people who suffer.
Always.
And that's the unfortunate part.
That's always the case. And it's
never
usually
the people in power.
It's usually based off of misinformation. You know what I mean? So like even when we talking about the hurricanes, right?
Yeah.
There was immediately some misinformation that shot out, right? Immediately, because it was politically in the interest of the person who started the misinformation. It was in their political interest. And I don't mean Trump. I don't even know who started the bullshit, but that Biden wasn't answering calls from, you know, the governors, and that's just, that's not true. Even the governor was like, no, I was busy. I missed his phone call. And then when I called back, he wasn't available. And then he got back to me. But, you know, like all these orders were put in place like 2 or 3 days before the hurricane made landfall. Like you don't have to make a big deal about, and this is where I think that God, it could happen to either side, in all honesty, but it's happening right now with the Republicans saying, you know, everything's bad, and I'm going to blame Biden, instead of understanding, and Democrats would have done it had it been Trump. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that it doesn't go both ways. I'm saying that it's a shame that it goes both ways, and I'm saying that it's a shame that we allow the disinformation to even get out there like that. You know, there should be, and
there should be a class you could take in high school and junior high, maybe like something we could call it civics.
Yeah, or
more simple, government class.
And then
people could take to learn how government operates in the United States.
See, that's the problem, though. Don't you think that all the reduction in education has put all these schools in a position where it's, you know, science, you know, STEM, it's all STEM, all right?
Yeah.
that takes away from government. And I'm almost willing to go down the conspiracy theory rabbit hole of there's a reason why the government doesn't want us to know how government works. And I think that that's
how dare you,
both sides. I think that that's both sides, because this has come down from both sides. You know, whether intentionally or unintentionally, the outcome will be that you have your constituency unfamiliar with what it is that they're voting for, because they don't even understand what job it is that you're asking them to vote you in for. And I think that that's very present when it comes to specifically the president in this country. Most people don't know enough about how government works, and they blame the president, whether it's a Republican or a Democrat, whether it's Biden or Trump, whether it's Kamala or whoever else, Obama, it doesn't matter. They blame the person who's behind that desk without understanding that there's a whole institution that has to fall in line, starting with Congress. And we have had the last 4 Congress have been essentially useless. You know what I mean? Like, especially when it was Republicans in control. So you saw with this current Congress, the carnage that came when they went after the Speaker of the House, when Matt Gaetz decided, I don't want to be investigated for child trafficking. He won't call the investigation off on me, the ethics investigation off on me. I only have to have, because it was so contentious to get to the point of getting a Speaker of the House. They knew that they had him over the barrel, because all it took was one vote to call for, him to be removed. Well, when that's the case, all it takes is one person in Congress being pissed off with you.
I'm pissed at you.
As the speaker, right? Now, granted, you have to get enough votes to actually get the job done, but that's how it works currently.
And there's people who are swearing that Mike Johnson won't be the speaker.
I don't think he will be.
Yeah. Because they're worried about another January 6th situation, and he's made reference of laying groundwork for another. So I get the feeling that he's about to lose his job.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think that in the long haul he will, because I don't think he's going to be able to appease the MAGA wing as much. Yeah. Even doing, and that's the thing with the MAGA wing. You could literally do everything that they ask you to do. McCarthy is an example of that. McCarthy did everything that they asked him to do, but there were some things that were just not going to get done. So, like, he knew that if it was a vote for the budget, right? If he knew it was for a vote for a budget, yeah, he'd run that budget just like Johnson did, as many ways as he could possibly do it, before getting to the point where it was like, all right, enough. We got to pass a continuing, a CR, continuing resolution, because otherwise the government's going to shut down. And while the MAGA wing says, let it shut down, and Trump says, shut it down, it's never worked out well for them. I mean, the last 2 times the government shut down, it was the Republicans that did it. And the last 2 times that they did it, they got their asses handed to them. So when you're Mike Johnson or Kevin McCarthy, and you're looking at it from a party health decision, and you make a decision that's in your party's best interest, which coincidentally is close to being in the best interest of the country as well, then, you're stuck between a rock and a hard spot, because you know that when you pull that trigger, you're going to end up being voted out of the speakership when you're doing the right thing. You know what I mean? And I think that that's the problem in the country. So like I was talking to you off air about that song, right? And it's an old Leonard Cohen song. The first time I heard it was in Pump Up the Volume. And then I heard it again in, it was originally, I heard it in Pump Up the Volume. It was the first time I had ever heard it. And then I heard it in the opening sequence of Justice League, sung by Sigrid so it was remade by Sigrid instead of Leonard Cohen. And it was interesting because I was listening to it and I'm realizing that while it wasn't like, probably a very popular song or anything like that, it had so many different social commentaries in it. So many different things that were right on the point. And every time it was like, and everybody knows. You know what I mean? And everybody knows this. Everybody knows this. So I started thinking about, well, what does everybody know? All right. Well, everybody.
Do I need my tinfoil hat for this?
No. I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so, because I do think that everybody knows that there's a pretty good chance that they're going to wake up tomorrow. Everybody knows that they're going to have to go to work. Everybody knows that they're going to have to pay their taxes. Everybody knows that if they want to say in politics, they have to vote. Otherwise, no vote, you can't really complain. Everybody knows that fucking Milton's coming, and everybody knows it's going to be a fucking disaster, right?
I'm sorry. I can't take Milton seriously.
Like I said, wait.
Coming. What's he going to do? Balance my spreadsheet?
No, that's Phil from accounting. That's the next one coming, remember?
That's right.
So there are certain things that I think we all know. And I think in this country right now, one of the things that we all know is that there is a sense, a feeling, a vibe in the air that is uneasy, because we don't know what the outcome of the election is going to be. But what we do know is that no matter what, half the country is going to be pissed off. So when you know half the country is going to be pissed off on the 6th, 7th, or 8th of November, when it's finally a done deal, when you know that, it gives you a sense of unease because you don't know what's coming. So my curiosity is this: what do we actually know? What do we think we know? And what don't we know? I think that that's actually where I'm at, is that I want to know what I do know. All right. I know certain things, mostly just within the realm of my own four walls of existence. Okay. I know that providing I don't die in my sleep, I'm going to wake up in the morning, and I know tomorrow afternoon, me and you are going to be working on the podcast. I know that. Yes. That's the plan, right? What I don't know is whether or not I'll die in my sleep. And what I'm convinced of, why are you rubbing your hands at that? Like I'm going to die in my sleep. You're like,
oh. I was applying some hand sanitizer.
Oh, okay. At a very appropriate time.
Probably saw me cracking up, right? And for like, what am I saying that's so funny? The other half is floating around like a butterfly behind the computer screen, trying to make me crack up on camera.
Okay, all right. So those are the things that we know. But what we don't know is whether or not our fucking news is accurate. What we don't know is if the posts on social media are accurate. And we get all worked up about all this stupid bullshit that turns out not to be accurate.
In that vein of information, I find it ironic that Larry from X knows the real story, but the news stations who've been doing it for basically 100 years are all wrong. But Larry on X knows the truth.
Well, you know what, though? I get that, because at this point in time, how many times has the news been wrong and not even acknowledged that they were wrong? You know what I mean?
This is true. This is true.
So it's.
But I just don't.
I think the news did it to itself.
Yeah, but again, I'm going to go with CBS or NBC rather than Tommy on X.
Well, I guess it depends on whether or not Tommy on X was actually in that circumstance or involved even on the periphery of that news story.
But there are people on X just the other day
spouting bullshit.
Watched a person who was doing canine sweeps, security sweeps in the parking lot. They were walking their dog. The dog had no training, and you could tell. They're just walking their dog. And was saying how a helicopter was blowing over everything. It was doing what's called a helo sweep.
Yeah, because apparently Kamala Harris doesn't want these people to get supplies because she doesn't want them to vote. But there's still almost 30 days left. It was 28 days left. Are you going to tell me that every time there's a staging area for food or relief or supplies, that a helo sweep is going to happen. That would really be something now, wouldn't it? Or what makes more sense is that there was a purpose for that helicopter to have been there, but they didn't think everything all the way through.
And you could tell the helicopter wanted to land, and people kept running towards, like, is it coming over here? Helicopters are not going to land in a situation like that.
No.
No. They don't want to chop a bunch of heads off of people. They're thinking about the health and security of the people. If you're not giving it clearance to land, it ain't going to land.
And that might cause a helo sweep. And this is my point.
But it would be heads that would roll.
Well, no. Even beyond that.
Like, it's a Black Hawk helicopter. We all know that only one organization uses Black Hawks. Not true. You and I could buy a Black Hawk. Oh my God, I can't say that. Black Hawk helicopter. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah. You know what it requires?
I'm going to guess a fuck ton of money, which means you and I are out.
outside of money. All that is required to buy a Black Hawk is the purchase of an FAA license. That's all it's required.
Huh.
Yeah. Imagine that.
Okay, so let's get a Kickstarter going so we can buy a license and a Black Hawk.
That sounds like fun.
I would love to do that. That would be actually fun. We should do it.
That sounds like a nightmare for me.
We should do it.
I just don't like to fly. It's not a fear of falling or crashing or anything. It's just the motion. I get motion sickness.
See, it doesn't bother me at all. I had to fly all over the country and all over the fucking place so many times. I fall asleep before we take off, right? So like if I'm in a plane, I'm usually asleep before takeoff. And I usually don't wake up until the wheels hit. And that's how I get woken up, is the wheels hitting.
No, really?
Yeah, so like to me, none of that is an issue.
Yeah, I find like when I have those little patches that go behind the ear.
Yeah.
So you don't have the motion sickness. I find the takeoff and the landing super fun. Really, I'm weird like that. I was on a plane and we had some heavy turbulence, and I thought it was funny. It woke me up, because I usually try to sleep if I can, but people panicking and getting bent out of shape was amusing to me.
So yeah, well, that's always amusing to you. It's been your life. So I want to look at this idea of misinformation, and I want to get your take on this. I think that this goes back to World War II. I mean, misinformation's always been part of the equation. Okay.
Yeah, that goes. Well, we did a little story about in the early podcast days that evidence of disinformation and propaganda goes back to Mark Antony.
Right. So this is not something new. I think it's just refined in a way, and I think that it's unfortunate that the news organizations, because of the way the profit model has changed and the business model has changed for them, I think that they've become click happy. So they're just basically creating headlines that are clickbait. And I think that they're trying to be first rather than trying to be correct. And it used to be the other way around. They always wanted to be first. That's been the
thing for the last 20 years. Be first.
Right. Instead of being correct. I mean, and they always wanted to be first before. That's not something new in the news, but they wanted to break the story, but they wanted to make sure that it was correct. I don't think that that's the case anymore. And I think that part of it stems from World War II. And the reason I say that is during World War II, there was Operation Paperclip. And Operation Paperclip brought in a lot of...
Did you say paperclip?
I think I said paperclip, yeah.
That's a whole nother operation, buddy.
Yeah, that's origami, Operation Origami. Paperclip.
Is Swan. Is English Swan.
He is happy Swan. Notice the smile. So I think that Operation Paperclip, aside from bringing us a lot of top scientists. Are you going to go back to paperclip?
Let me pump the brakes. I just want to ask a question.
All right.
We were making fun of paperclip, but we went Russian instead of German. How does that happen?
No. We should have, because it was origami. We should have been going Asian.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Hey, that's racist.
Well, no, but that's where it comes from. That's where origami comes from. How's that racist?
Is paper pen.
Yeah.
Again, I went Russian. Something looks Japanese. What the hell?
So, my point here.
I'm tired.
Yeah, you're done. Turn in your microphone. So, the Operation Paperclip brought a lot of great scientists to the country, right? They were German, but they were the top rocket scientists. Mm-hmm. That included, Werner von Braun, who people forget was basically, he was running NASA, for fuck's sake.
Yes.
He was on Disney showing, how rockets work. Standing right next to Walt fucking Disney. Yep. Being piped into, and this is shortly after World War II, right? We're not talking a very long time. But they had, and this is the other thing that always kills me. Alabama is always kind of the joke state, like they're stupid and stuff like that.
Yep.
But oddly, the highest concentration of rocket scientists in the fucking is right there. Right.
One little area.
And that's because that's where they found that they could put them. And for whatever reason, it worked out. I don't know all the details. But part of that was Goebbels, their propaganda.
Goebbels.
Gerbils. Don't say that around. What's his face? Richard Gere.
Actor?
Richard Gere.
Richard Gere.
So anyways, he was the propaganda minister and really good at it. Like really good at it. And they brought him in to, and I don't know if he was brought in as part of Paperclip or if they just questioned him or what the deal was. But
who is your dresser?
Yeah. Where did you find your jacket?
Is that the new Hugo Boss?
So, and that's another thing. People forget that Hugo Boss fucking dressed the Nazis, right? Isn't that true?
Correct.
So there's a lot of things that we forget about. And one of those things is that he was probably one of the best at least at that time, that had ever existed when it came to propaganda. And he taught our government how to utilize it. And I honestly believe that while it took a long time for it to fully happen, I think we're now at the, if not the pinnacle, close to the pinnacle of what it was he taught our government and what people learned from the books that were written about him, whether that's business leaders, whether that's, it doesn't matter who, politicians, business leaders, religious leaders. I think that they have all kind of, whether knowingly or unknowingly, gotten to the point where they are using that playbook. And I don't want to call it a Nazi playbook. I think it's more of a manipulation. Well, you could say, obviously it came out of Nazi Germany. But I don't think that when you're talking about manipulating people's behaviors using propaganda, I don't think that is something that you can just...
Nazi propaganda attacked 4, I almost held up 2 fingers, 4 types of, it's not even organization, ideas, which are Jews, communists, capitalists, and intellectuals.
So that was what they were against.
Yes.
Right. So
the
what do you see nowadays?
Onslaught of the I just want to say it because I know I'm going to butcher it. I'm sorry, German people. Volksgemeinschaft.
Right now we have one German listener sitting in Berlin going, nah, not so good, but not so bad. And he's doing
another Italian.
No, he's doing it. He's doing that with the Italian accent because he just heard what we did when it came to paperclip. He's doing that,
and
for
of course
us.
the Blut and Boden, which is blood and soil.
So like I said, I don't think that when you're talking about, even though it came out of Nazi Germany, I don't think that when you're talking about somebody who was that skilled at manipulation through propaganda, I don't think that you can just leave it as marked Nazi. I think that it's bigger than that. I think that everything that he was doing, he had learned from previous administrations, previous kingdoms, previous rulers, previous, Machiavellian type operators within governments. I think that he just was really good at collecting that all together and finding a way to have some sort of symbiotic relationship between the propaganda and the way that it was slid into the public square. So I think that that's where we're at. I think that we've gotten to a point where propaganda from both sides or all sides has gotten so good that we don't know what's real anymore. So we don't know what's up. I had a conversation years ago with a friend of mine, comedian John Ubroth, and this is probably 15 years ago. And I did not know that he would have this prophetic kind of statement. So me and him disagree on politics, up, down, right, and left. And one day we were having a conversation, and he says to me, he goes, I want to, because me and him used to write scripts together. Mm-hmm. And he said, I want to write a script about misinformation. He goes, I think that that's going to be the currency of the future. And I'm not quite sure how to do it. And at that point, I thought, that's the stupidest fucking thing ever. I'm like, misinformation? Come on, man. How do you write a movie about misinformation? Well, now we're living in that fucking movie. We're literally living in that movie. And his variant on it was essentially all information that is false is more valuable than the truth. And it's more valuable because it will move this section of the country or these people who think this way in a direction that we want them to go. And it will force this side that doesn't want to go that way a little bit. It was the idea of push until you get resistance and then step back. So yeah, we got 2 steps forward, 1 step back, but we're still 1 step forward. And that was the whole idea behind what he was talking about. And I really didn't get it. I have to give him credit, man. He was visionary when it came to the idea of misinformation. And again, like all you have to do is look at the misinformation that came out because of the hurricane, because of fucking a hurricane. And you find yourself in a position of actually questioning everything instead of being able to say, okay, I can easily dismiss this. You can't really do that anymore. Most people just go, that's exactly what I've been talking about. And they, without thought, they just agree with it. If it fits their narrative, their political narrative that they want to push forward. That's the easy way. But the people who are actually trying to figure shit out and understand what's true and what's not, there's no way that you can keep up with it. You can't, the avalanche of bullshit that is out there, that is misinformation. There's no way you can, as one person, try to fact check all the things that just affect you or that are just of concern to you. Okay? I don't need to know if hot air balloon problems are a real thing or if it's, space lasers shooting them down or, I don't care. I'm not into hot air balloons. Space lasers. So I'm able to take that one out of the mix. But what I am concerned about is Project 2025. What I am concerned about is the response to the hurricane. But everything that I'm seeing seems to be like, okay, FEMA's doing what FEMA always does. And for good or for bad, this isn't about a political party or a president. This is what this organization in the government was created for. And they are handling it the same way they handle every other natural disaster, no matter whether it's a political year or not, whether it's a fucking, a presidential nomination or not. They are just doing what FEMA is meant to do. And while we may not like it, because I've watched these videos of people just pissing and moaning, saying, we send all this money to Ukraine. It should be spent here. Okay, well, even if that was true and it was spent there, there's no amount of money that can make the cleanup effort go quicker. There's just not. There's a amount of money that you may not have that will make it go slower, because if you don't have money for the cleanup, then it goes slower. But they have all the money that they need. It's just that storm was that fucking big.
Yeah.
And when you're going to complain, you might want to look back at some of the legislation that the Republicans voted down as far as funding for FEMA.
There was 82 Republicans
voted against
not
it. Not to fund FEMA at all.
Yeah. How many Democrats?
I don't
0
think there were any. No. So before you get your panties twisted, maybe you should actually know what the facts are. It's easy to get pissed. Okay? It's hard to remain logical. And the best way to do that is to go, okay, well, how did we get here? Because if you understand government, you understand that none of those institutions, I don't give a shit if it's the FBI, the CIA, the military, FEMA, none of it gets funded without the approval of Congress saying how much it's going to get funded for. And that's not the president. That's just not the president. And I would say the same thing if it was Trump in office right now. It's just not how it fucking works. And I get it. They're pissed at all this money going to take care of immigrants. And, they're getting $2,500 or whatever, $3,500 a month or whatever, and they're getting $750. I get it. I can see why you would be upset about that. Okay? But maybe you need to look at how that came to be.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, before you just start spouting off, maybe take 30 minutes and follow the money through Congress. Follow the bills through Congress. They're all listed on the internet. You can literally, there's bill watcher apps that you can get. You can download all this stuff. Like, you can get that information directly from the people who are representing you. You can call your congressman and say, did you or did you not vote yes on this or no on that? And their office will tell you, even though you could look it up online, because it's all a matter of public record. So I guess what I'm getting at more than anything is I wish people would spend less time spouting off without taking a moment to do a 2-minute Google search.
A little bit of work.
Just how long does a Google search take? Ask AI. You can go on ChatGPT.
Google isn't a very good search engine because it's liberal.
Oh, it's liberal. Okay, well, what isn't liberal? What search engine isn't? DuckDuckGo?
Google,
I don't know.
Google, what is it? Google Scholar.
Okay, so is that not? Well, that's part of Google, so that's got to be liberal too. And on top of it, it's Scholar. So goddamn, we can't have any because
intellectualism.
That's the thing that MAGA seems to hate the most is people that are intellects. Mm-hmm. We don't like people that actually study one particular thing and become experts on it, because then they get real cocky about that.
I don't want to change the subject. Just a little observation. But do you think it's a little weird that when looking at a person such as Goebbels just now with me, I noticed that on his Wikipedia page, and with a lot of, famous people such as that, they have a signature in the about, and I find that weird.
I don't think so.
Know why.
I think it's odd that they would want that. I don't think that's odd that they have it.
Seeing his signature on his I'm going to have to grab my copy of Mein Kampf and see if it matches his signature next to Adolf's. I keep it right next to my autographed version of the Bible.
So it's on the fiction shelf.
Yes, exactly.
All right. So that was a lot of heavy stuff. So let's lighten it up with a small dose of Halloween.
Oh, small dose.
Yeah, a little small dose, right?
It's like with a candy corn version of Halloween.
I think for the next one we'll actually go full Halloween because we're getting deeper into the season. So maybe the next one we'll do a full Halloween one. But this one, let's just do a little something. If you had to pick 3 of your favorite childhood TV shows that would come on during this time of year. Obviously, it's a Great Pumpkin. Obviously, the Charlie Brown Great Pumpkin would be one.
Yeah, that's going to be in there.
But and you've talked about before Ichabod Crane.
Yeah, Ichabod Crane and the Headless Horseman.
Yeah, and what would be your third? Because I don't remember a lot of Halloween specials aside from the Charlie Brown one. Do you?
I do. There is a third done by Bass and Rankin Bass, who did the Rudolph and
so the stop
Santa
motion
Comes to Clown. Yeah, stop motion, same style, but it's called Mad Monster Party.
Oh, I don't think I ever saw that one.
Yeah, I know. I am a wealth of knowledge when it comes to Halloween.
I know you are.
But along those lines, you could throw in there the annual Halloween episodes of Home Improvement and Roseanne.
Yeah,
those were always
fun.
Must watches. Simpsons with a Treehouse of Terror.
Yeah, okay.
There's some classic episodes of that. So,
all right, now the last question: if you had to pick a haunted house to go to, it can be anywhere in the country.
Are we talking commercial haunted house or actual haunted house?
All right, let's do both. Let's do commercial.
Oh, jeez. A commercial haunted house that I'd want to go to. That's a tough one because I've been to a lot and I tend to ruin them, as we covered before.
Yeah. But if you had to suggest one, like you're suggesting it to somebody,
I'm going to have to
get back to me on that one next episode.
Well, there's a part of me that wants to tell people, go check out Cutting Edge because they kind of incorporate a section kind of like an escape room where if you get out quick enough, you can get your money back. And I find that interesting, but a scam.
All right, but where's that at? Where's that
That's in Dallas, Texas.
Dallas, Texas. Okay.
But also, I want to give a shout out to the community haunted houses that, Boy Scouts put out there, or Girl Scouts, or local lodges, because they usually do it for charity.
Right.
And I find that admirable. Now, a lot of fun, good money goes to helping somebody. As for an actual haunted house.
I would, let me interrupt though, real quick. I would never, I don't know what it is, but I've always had this thing against the Boy Scouts. And then when I learned more about some of the shit that was going on with the Boy Scouts, like I just can't. I can't. To me,
I get it.
To me, it's like donating to the Catholic
it's the
Church.
Religious background, but I'm just like,
so like I've literally everything. Like I love Girl Scout cookies. I do, just because it's under the same umbrella. Essentially, I don't.
It is now. It wasn't before.
Yeah, that's why before I would support it, and now I fucking don't. I'm serious. So,
did you know that I think it is Walmart makes versions of the Girl Scout cookies, but they're out year round?
I did not know this.
Yeah, like the Samoas and the Thin Mints.
I did not know this.
Year round, they sell them.
Okay, you're gonna have to send me a link.
Oh yeah.
All right, so now like
the actual haunted.
Yes,
I've been to a lot of places. To pick one that I haven't been to, I can't answer that.
Okay, so next episode you'll have to have an answer for that.
I'll have to think.
I'm going to put your feet to the fire on that one. I'm going to put your feet to the fire.
And
I'll even go so far as to say, because we're wrapping up in that, I'll go so far as to say I don't recommend haunted houses at all. And the reason I don't is because I fucking hate jump scares. And with that, that's another Elsie's little picks. You motherfucker.
Oh, God, you scared me. I'm terrified.
I scared your socks off.